In Miami, there's an island so exclusive that it's known as the Billionaire Bunker. Its real name is Indian Creek Island. Just a few dozen residences, ultra-tight security, waterfront estates surrounded by water, and among the owners, some of the wealthiest people on the planet. But what makes this island truly fascinating isn't just the famous names who live there, it's the properties themselves. Massive waterfront estates, spectacular architecture, private grounds, and a level of privacy that's almost impossible to find anywhere else. And today, we're going to explore 7 of the most impressive residences on Indian Creek Island to see what life really looks like behind the gates of this ultra-exclusive refuge for the super rich. As always, before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy discovering the most exclusive and extravagant properties on the planet. We begin this ranking with a property that has already made history in Miami real estate, 3 Indian Creek Island Road. In 2019, this massive waterfront estate sold for around $50 million, setting a new record at the time for a single-family home in Miami-Dade County. A few years earlier, it had already broken a previous record with a $47 million sale. The property sits on nearly 2 acres of land and offers more than 20,000 square feet of living space. Inside, there are 10 bedrooms and 14 bathrooms, including a primary suite of around 3,000 square feet. But this home feels more like a private resort than a traditional residence. It features a 3D movie theater, a recording studio, a spa with chromotherapy, a fully glass-enclosed gym overlooking the water, and multiple spaces designed for entertaining. Outside, things become even more impressive with a nearly 100-foot swimming pool, pavilions, several bars, a jacuzzi, and even a rooftop transformed into a private sky bar. And most remarkably, the estate has its own beach covered with pink sand imported from the Bahamas, along with direct access to Biscayne Bay and space to dock a boat. The architecture focuses heavily on indoor-outdoor living with expansive glass walls, open courtyards, palm trees, waterfalls, and even reflecting pools integrated into the property. In other words, on Indian Creek, even our number 7 already comes with its own beach, a cinema, a sky bar, and more than 20,000 square feet of space. And yet, this is only the beginning. For the 6th property, we turn to one of the best-known longtime residents of Indian Creek Island, Julio Iglesias. Before becoming an international music star, Julio Iglesias was pursuing a career in football. But a serious accident changed the course of his life. He later turned to music and became one of the most famous Spanish artists in the world. That success also allowed him to build a substantial real estate portfolio in Miami, with Indian Creek becoming one of his preferred addresses. His main residence on the island offers around 7,200 square feet, or nearly 670 square meters, with 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. Originally built in the 1970s and later expanded, the home benefits above all from an exceptional location directly on Biscayne Bay. Outside, there is a private swimming pool, expansive landscaped grounds, and most importantly, a private dock, allowing direct access to the property by boat. But what makes this residence especially interesting is its history. Julio Iglesias began investing on Indian Creek decades ago and gradually built a significant real estate portfolio on the island. At one point, his family controlled several waterfront lots, some of them exceeding 80,000 square feet each. The home itself was reportedly purchased for around $7 million in 2008, but land values on Indian Creek have risen dramatically since then. And unlike some of the island's newer and more extravagant properties, this residence is much more discreet. Here, the real luxury comes from space. Direct access to the water, privacy, and the privilege of living in one of Miami's most exclusive communities. And yet, this historic property is still only our number 6. As we move up the ranking, the homes become larger, more modern, and much more expensive. For the 5th property, we arrive at the home of one of Wall Street's best-known billionaires, Icahn. Icahn made his name as an activist investor, taking major stakes in large companies and pushing for strategic changes. For decades, he has been one of the most influential figures in American finance. His Indian Creek residence was built in 1994 and purchased by Icahn in 1997 for around $7.5 million. The property offers approximately 1,300 to 1,400 square meters, or nearly 14,000 square feet, on a lot of around 1.84 acres. Inside, the home includes 7 bedrooms, 8 full bathrooms, and 4 powder rooms spread across 2 levels. The architecture blends Mediterranean and contemporary influences, with expansive living spaces, carefully landscaped outdoor areas, and direct views over Biscayne Bay. But here, the real luxury is not just about the size of the house. The property benefits from direct access to the water, a large enough lot to preserve genuine privacy, and an extremely secure environment. Indian Creek Village even has its own armed police force with 24-hour security for only around 40 residences. A large part of the island is also occupied by a prestigious private golf club, adding even more exclusivity to the community. In other words, Icahn didn't just buy a large waterfront home, he bought into one of the most protected and exclusive places in Miami. And from this point on, the owners become even more famous, and the prices start rising dramatically. For the fourth property, we arrive at the home of Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, one of the most high-profile couples on Indian Creek Island. Ivanka Trump, the daughter of Donald Trump, previously served as a White House advisor, while Jared Kushner comes from a prominent New York real estate family and also worked as a senior presidential advisor. The couple purchased this Indian Creek residence for around $24 to $30 million. The home offers more than 790 square meters of interior space with 6 bedrooms, expansive living areas, and bathrooms finished entirely in marble. But what stands out most is the scale of the interiors. The residence features spectacular dome ceilings reaching around 8 meters in height, along with an imposing golden double staircase that immediately gives the entrance a dramatic, almost theatrical atmosphere. The property combines generous proportions with architecture designed to make an impression from the moment you walk in. And of course, the location adds another layer of luxury. The home sits in the heart of Indian Creek, known as the Billionaire Bunker, because of its exceptional security and extreme level of privacy. So here, luxury is not just about marble, soaring ceilings, or the size of the house. It is also about living in one of the most private and heavily protected communities in Miami. And from this point on, the properties become even more expensive, and the owners even more famous. For the third property, we arrive at the home of one of the richest and most famous men on the planet, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. After building Amazon into one of the world's largest technology companies, Bezos gradually assembled an enormous real estate portfolio. And on Indian Creek, he didn't buy just one home. He acquired several neighboring properties to create a true private compound. For this ranking, we're focusing on his residence at 12 Indian Creek Island Road, purchased in 2023 for around $79 million. The home spans nearly 19,000 square feet, or about 1,765 square meters, on roughly 2 acres of waterfront land. It includes 7 bedrooms and nearly 200 feet of waterfront frontage. Inside, the property features a private movie theater, a wine cellar, and expansive entertaining spaces. Outside, there's a large swimming pool, a cabana, and direct access to Biscayne Bay, with enough space to preserve an almost complete sense of privacy. But what makes this property even more interesting is that it's part of a much larger estate. Just a few months earlier, Bezos had already purchased the neighboring home for around $68 million. Together, the two properties already represented nearly 4.6 acres of contiguous land on Indian Creek. In other words, Bezos didn't simply come to buy a house in the Billionaire Bunker. He began building his own private compound, right in the heart of one of Miami's most secure and exclusive islands. And yet, despite its $79 million price tag, this property still ranks only number 3 on our list. For the second property, we arrive at the home of an American sports legend, Tom Brady. Widely considered one of the greatest players in NFL history, Brady won 7 Super Bowls during his career and built a substantial fortune through football, endorsement deals, and investments. On Indian Creek, he chose to build a fully custom residence on a lot purchased for around $17 million. The property sits directly on the waterfront and was designed as a true private estate, with expansive outdoor spaces, a swimming pool, a gym, dedicated wellness areas, and several spaces created for entertaining. One of the most interesting aspects is the level of customization. Unlike buying an existing home, Brady was able to shape every part of the estate around his own needs, with modern architecture, large openings toward Biscayne Bay, and maximum privacy. Outside, the property also includes a cabana, extensive gardens, and direct access to the water. But what makes this estate especially impressive is its potential value. Although the land itself was purchased for around $17 million, some estimates and reported offers for the completed property have suggested a value of more than $150 million. In other words, Tom Brady didn't simply buy a house on Indian Creek. He transformed an already extremely rare piece of land into one of the most desirable estates in the entire Billionaire Bunker. And even with a potential value exceeding $150 million, there is still one property capable of going even further. For the number one property, we arrive at the estate that currently sits at the very top of Indian Creek Island, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan's residence. The founder of Facebook and CEO of Meta has built one of the largest fortunes in the technology world, and in 2026, he and Priscilla Chan purchased this property at 7 Indian Creek Island Road for around $170 million. That sale set a new residential record for Miami-Dade County. The estate spans nearly 27,900 square feet, or around 2,590 square meters, on approximately 1.84 acres of waterfront land. It includes 9 bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, and around 200 feet of direct waterfront frontage. The property was designed on an extraordinary scale with vast interior spaces, dramatic entertaining areas, landscaped grounds, and large openings facing Biscayne Bay. It was also created with an extreme focus on privacy and comfort, combining monumental proportions with the kind of security expected in one of the most exclusive communities in the United States. The residence was initially listed for around $200 million before ultimately selling for approximately $170 million. And at that price, Zuckerberg didn't simply buy another luxury home. He bought nearly 28,000 square feet of private waterfront living space inside an island already known for billionaire neighbors, private security, and some of the most valuable residential land in Miami. $170 million for one single home. That's what makes this estate the perfect number one property in Miami's Billionaire Bunker. That's what life looks like inside Miami's famous Billionaire Bunker. From waterfront estates and extreme privacy to homes worth more than $100 million, Indian Creek Island truly lives up to its nickname. Which of these 7 properties impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering the world's most exclusive properties, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.